In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sarge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, Mayor Ward, I would like to add an item to the agenda, please. We need to add business arising from delegations today.
Okay, so we have a motion to, or an adjustment to put that after number item 4A. Councillor Gramlich?
Yeah.
Well, there's a motion there. Okay, motion to, on the floor to adopt the agenda as with the addition as amended. Anything further? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. Councillor Achoba.
I would like to suggest an amendment to the minutes. The last page where it talks about motion number 29-2026, it should say in closed session at instead of AY.
Anything further on that? Okay, I see nothing. So a motion to adopt as we make the motion there?
Yeah, so I would like to make a motion to adopt the regular meeting of council February 17th as amended.
Okay, any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. Okay, next up, we're going to move into delegations. Viola Beamer, floor is yours. Yeah, you can come sit up here. Take your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Viola Beamer Stevens. I'm here representing my dad, Garner Bruce Beamer. So basically what happened was my dad has been a member of the Slave Lake community for many years. And over 2 years ago, his health declined. So he became a resident at Vanderbilt Lodge and is now at the Sweetgrass community living. And we decided to keep his condo for family visits, and that's where I'm staying now. And I had forwarded his mail to his main residences, either at Vanderwells or at Sweetgrass. And unfortunately, the tax bill was set directly to Grizzly Ridge condos. And unfortunately, as I don't live in Slave Lake, I live in Calgary. His tax bill fell behind, and we were unaware that it was unpaid. So when I arrived in Slave Lake in November, and so I've been taking care of my dad's matters as his power of attorney, and as my dad enters palliative care. And so when I received the invoice and that amount was $3,807.90, $715.55 being penalties. So as of December 12th, I paid the $3,092.35 for the years of 2024 and 2025. And basically why I'm here today is I'm politely requesting the $715.55 to be waived to save on expenses. My dad was always in good standing with the town of Slave Lake and was an educator at Northern Lakes College for over 20 years before his retirement. Of course, we'd pay the penalties if this request is denied. However, I didn't feel like it would hurt to request this forgiveness of this payment for this one time. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Williams.
Hi, Viola. I just want to say I appreciate the work you put in. I see firsthand with my mom caring for her mom, and she also is a resident at the Vanderwells Lodge.
Okay.
So I understand how that could be. I just want to know, when you did find out and receive the tax bill, did you contact the town at that time? I came
directly to the desk and showed them the bill, and then because I wanted to pay the full amount, which I did immediately. And then I withheld paying the $715 in order to have this meeting first.
Okay. Before you came to the town, did you go online and check things
No, I
out to look
didn't.
at resources?
No, I needed to get
Okay.
kind of boots in the ground and like figure out what everything
Okay.
was happening.
I guess my
So-
question was just more about, is the information we provide accessible to residents to be able to?
I wasn't able to, I had no idea about it, so it wasn't accessible to me. And when I didn't get power of attorney until I got here in November, so
Okay,
I wouldn't have been able to access it anyway.
okay, and you've been living here since when then?
November,
Oh,
yeah.
our fun winter.
Yes, I think I brought it. It happened. in winter.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anything further from council? Okay, well, I appreciate the time that you took today and we'll move on to then business arising from delegations. Well, Councillor Ochoa first though. Oh, Councillor Gramlich, people turn the mics off.
Just make a motion to accept the delegation as information.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that one is carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now we can move on to business arising from delegations. So as a result of that delegation from Viola, there was a request to waive the penalties on the account. Floor is now open for council to discuss or make a motion. Councillor Gramlich.
It seemed pretty cut and dry. It seemed like a simple mistake and they took care of it as soon as they could. So for admin, what's the motion required to Roland would probably know.
All outstanding taxes as of January 3rd, 2026. For Garnet Bruce Beamer. For the tax roll, it's Garnet Bruce Beamer.
You want to do that so we get it right? If I would have.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, we can come back to it after.
We will come back to that. We'll just have
Thank
the
you.
discussion phase there. So we'll get some more information on that. Councillor Ochoa.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, I'm 100% in support of waiving this the penalty on the overdue taxes, just because it was an honest mistake. And I'm also happy that the initial amount was paid right away. And I think that shows good faith and shows that it wasn't a malicious or the intention wasn't to owe in taxes. So I'm 100% in support of this.
Okay, anything? Alex, go ahead.
If I just may add, if you notice on the request, it was dated December 12th. So the request was made fairly early on due to canceled meetings and to the Christmas holidays. That's why it's coming forth today, but it was brought forth fairly quickly. Just for your info.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any further commentary from council? Okay. Well, we can. Councillor Williams.
Hi, I'm just wondering if this, because of this situation where we have elders and seniors moving into lodges, when this situation happens, is there a better way that we can transfer their information? Like, is there a way they could let us know so that we can get on track of this sooner than later, or how does the process go in this state? Because they have to contact us and let them know they're moving, right? But could there be some potential information as they're coming into the lodge from the lodge on that, perhaps?
I think, and you could yell, you don't have to come back to the mic. You kept your father's home, right? So that's why the information
Yeah.
got transferred. So that would be up to the,
The situation?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, no, that was my only question, and I agree with Councillor Choba on this one. There was nothing malicious, and yes, I agree that this could be something that we could waive.
Okay, well, we'll let Roland search for that. We can probably move on to our FCSS report and we'll just put a pin in that, come back to it. Darcy, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. I am just reporting on the current service levels for FCSS. So as I let you know last fall when we did the FCSS external reports, FCSS is an 80-20 partnership with the government of Alberta. We are regulated by the Family and Community Support Services Act and the Family and Community Support Services Regulation. So There's a lot of regulation that we follow outside of municipal regulation so that we're following what we're supposed to be. So our FCSS for the town of Slave Lake focuses on 6 programming areas. We focus on adults, seniors, youth, community and families, volunteers, and we have collaboration and partnerships with the community. Of these focus areas, programming is provided through direct and indirect implementation. So our direct programming is provided by our community services staff. And these programs include anger education, roots of empathy, family fun nights, Go Girls, youth programs like Leader in Me and youth events, interagency, seniors home support, senior snow removal and lawn maintenance, volunteer income tax program, seniors events, special events and community events, partnerships and collaborations with other agencies, not-for-profits and committees, and also community supports. Indirect programming is implemented through the external FCSS grants that come before council usually twice a year. And their eligibility falls under the FCSS regulations. The 2024 and 2025 annual program summary reports are attached. These have all of our statistics from the last 2 years that we've done with FCSS. Some of the programs to highlight are anger education programs. Our men's participation has increased from 24 to 25. The women's and youth programs were offered and very successful, and a new family workshop was offered and well received. Family Fun Night participation increased by 259 individuals and 55 new families last year. The volunteer income tax program filed 420 tax returns with 232.5 hours of volunteers. Volunteer Week had 191 volunteers recognized with 300 volunteer hours. The seniors Christmas wreath making was at capacity, 22 seniors, and it had a waiting list just as big. So we could have offered it twice if we had the funding. As well, the seniors pancake breakfast had 91 participants in the Christmas time. We did have an increase in community referrals last year. And in 2025, we expended the entire FCSS budget completely with no carryover amount. And this is the first time that's been done since pre-2020. So we got it on the straight and narrow now. New initiatives and programs in 2025 was the Family Anger Ed Workshop, a seniors walking track sponsorship. We had mental health initiatives and support in partnership with Slave Lake and Area Mental Health. They received a $24,000 grant, and FCSS is the backbone financial partner, so I take care of all their funding. We did International Women's Day partnership with Taproot. We did Roland Michener Wellness Fair participation. We started participating in the Youth Advisory Committee and are taking on their financials now. We had an addiction support presentation in partnership with Rising Above Ministries in Slave Lake. 2026 programming will continue to focus on our existing programs and community partnerships. We'll continue to work on increasing capacity in youth programming, and this will be particularly accomplished through the new involvement with the Youth Advisory Committee. Got a lot kind of planned in Bowen. And FCSS has taken on the financial backbone for that committee as well. So they also have received some donations and funding. So I've got a couple of pots underneath me now that I'm sorting through. In 2026, I will also personally be mentoring other new FCSS staff in the province with a new program that was created by the FCSS AA, and it's a way to support new FCSS staff in the province with programming and reporting. And so this just commenced last week, and so I'm helping 2 communities with their final reports to the province. We'll also continue training on the new provincial accountability framework that is going to be our new reporting system that'll be implemented in 2027 for our 2026 report. Our FCSS has 1.6 FTE, which is me, which is more about a 0.5 with my split roles. We have a 1.0 FTE, which is Tammy as a seniors coordinator. We have 2 contracted anger education instructors, 1 volunteer Roots of Empathy instructor this year, and 4 income tax volunteers. And then the MRC programming staff assist with implementing some of our youth programs. So that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Thanks, Darcy. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the report and for the wonderful work you do with FCSS. I'm really happy to see that numbers are continuing to increase and you balance the budget, and all of that is really great. Anything particular that you think you can attribute to the rise in attendance numbers year over year? Or?
I think that people are starting to know more about what's going on in our community.
Okay.
A lot of it is word of mouth and
Yeah.
the word is, especially like family fun nights.
Yeah.
That one, I made it so I could have more people. It used to be limited to 60 to 70 people depending on space. I did bigger events, bigger monthly programs so more people could attend.
Okay.
And got a few more sponsorships in.
Yeah.
And now I find word of mouth is spreading and people are, if they don't get the email or don't see it, then they're like, can you add me to the list? I missed the email. How did I miss the email? So what was impressive to me was the new families that are coming. And a lot of them are new to the community.
I was just gonna ask you that. Do you feel like these are new families? Okay, interesting. So how do you think you're reaching them if they're new to the community?
A lot of it is either the play groups that they're
Okay.
attending, like at the CRC, or at parent-teacher interviews at school. The teachers are mentioning our programs that we're offering.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. That's really great to hear. I super appreciate that. I also wanted to comment that I'm really happy to hear that you're collaborating with the Youth Advisory Committee as well. I think that's really important. And yeah, this is just growing and taking on a life of its own. And I'm very happy to see that. So thank you guys, to you and the team, for all the work you do.
It's getting back to where it was about 2013.
That's great.
Counselor Choba?
Thank you. You know, when I look at the resource impact and number of FTs and all that and support staff that you have and the amount of work that you guys do, I want to say thank you so much. Lots of families that I've interacted with one way or the other have shared, you know, how they've benefited from FCSS and the work that you guys do, as well as other community partnering agencies. So just wanted to say thank you for all the good work and please pass our thanks to the team. Yeah.
Counselor Choba?
I'd like to move that council accepts the FCSS service level reports as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Joanna. Floor is yours. Oh, well. Joy, that's okay. You're already up there. I messed that up. Sorry. We'll get back to you, Roland. Yep, thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Tonight, I am presenting a report revolving around bylaw 3/2026, which is an application to amend the intermunicipal plan. This is for council to give first reading and schedule the required public hearing. The Municipal Government Act states that council must give bylaw 3/2026 first reading and hold the required public hearing prior to passing any resolutions. The municipal development plan states that these subject plans are designated as regional commercial in the MDP, and as such, no amendment is required. The intermunicipal development plan, the subject plans are located within the referral area of the intermunicipal development plan, and in accordance with the intermunicipal development plan map, figure 4.5, they maintain a light industrial land use designation, and as such, require a plan amendment. Plan amendment was referred to the MD of Lesser Slave River. No comments have come from them as of yet. The MPC will review this application April 13th. And the plan amendment was referred to adjacent property owners, and to date, there has been no comments received by the department from anyone. It's being presented for first reading and scheduling of the required public hearing under the MGA. And the purpose is to ensure alignment between all applicable statutory planning documents and the current and proposed use of the subject plans. During administration's review of the file, it was identified that the regional growth plan will also require an amendment to fully align with the proposed development. This amendment must be considered by the Tri-Council prior to proceeding. Administration is currently coordinating with Tri-Council with a meeting anticipated in late May 2026 to present the proposed amendment. Aside from the intermunicipal development plan and the forthcoming regional growth plan amendment, no additional changes to other statutory plans are required to facilitate this application. Notice of the public hearing will be advertised on the town's website and social media platforms for a period of 2 weeks. In addition, letters of notice of the public hearing will be sent to adjacent property owners, the MD, Sauridge First Nation, and all school boards. At this time, the planning department has no concerns with this application and recommends that council give bylaw 3/2026 first reading and schedule the required public hearing for April 21st, 2026 at 6 p.m.
I will jump in there with administration because we're having some changes for council meetings. Are we still having the council meeting April 21st? Okay, perfect. I thought it was canceled on the calendar, so just confirming. It was re-added today, okay. Just confirming that the 21st is still, there was been agenda shuffling. I wanted to make sure before we make a motion on public hearing. Counselor Hughes.
Okay, I move that bylaw number 03-2026 to amend the intermunicipal plan map figure 4.5 of the intermunicipal plan bylaw number 24-2014 by redistricting southeast part of the Southwest 173-6 west of the 5th from light industrial to recreation, parks and schools. Received first reading and that the required public hearing be scheduled for April 21st, 2026 at 6 p.m.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. And now I'm going to bring Roland back up for business arising from delegations.
Just make a motion that council forgives $787.11 on tax roll 31224 dot 39.
31224.39. That would be the efficient way. That would be the efficient way to do that. Counselor Bowes.
I would like to make a motion that council will forgive interest and penalties of $787.11 on tax roll number 31224.39.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Counselor Hughes.
Sorry, the figure that I had was 715.55. I'm assuming there's just extra penalties added since this initial report. Can someone confirm?
It would be
or-
because probably the end of
it's-
December, we would have
Okay,
calculated. new
okay, I just wanted to check. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. Okay. All right, up next, Kush, for our procurement and evaluation process.
Good evening, your worship and council. With the election of new council members, administration is providing this information report to support council's understanding of the procurement and evaluation processes used by the municipality when seeking offers for goods, services, and construction contracts. Procurement is an important municipal function that ensures goods, services, and construction projects are acquired through fair, transparent, and competitive processes that provide the best overall value to the municipality. The town's purchasing policy establishes this framework and standards that guide how administration procures goods, services, and construction contracts. The policy is designed to ensure compliance with applicable trade agreements and legislation governing public sector procurement. Trade agreements require municipalities to follow open and competitive procurement practices when soliciting goods, services, or construction opportunities above established threshold values. As a result, procurement opportunities that exceed the applicable threshold amounts must be publicly advertised to support open, transparent, and competitive participation from qualified vendors. Attachment 1 is provided for council to look at those thresholds under various trade agreements. The town's purchasing policy in agreement with applicable trade agreements require that all procurement processes be conducted in a fair, open, and impartial manner without providing preferential treatment to any vendor or supplier. Accordingly, the town must ensure equal access for all qualified vendors and cannot favor local contractors or suppliers for procurement opportunities exceeding the prescribed trade agreement threshold. Any preferential treatment in such cases would be non-compliant with this agreement and may result in formal bid challenges through established dispute resolution mechanisms. Local preference may only be considered where estimated value of the procurement falls below the lowest applicable trade agreement threshold in accordance with the town's purchasing policy. A copy of purchasing policy is also attached as attachment 2 for council's reference. Town administration utilizes the following types of procurement when soliciting bids or proposals. Number 1 is request for tender or invitation to bid. So a request for tender, sometimes referred to as invitation to bid, is used when scope of work and technical specifications are clearly defined. Vendors submit sealed bids that meet all mandatory requirements. Compliant bids are typically evaluated primarily on price and other criteria as specified in the tender document. This method is commonly used for construction projects or purchase of standardized goods. Tender documents outline the project scope, technical specification, and submission requirements, providing sufficient information to bidders to prepare and submit a compliant bid. The document also identifies the evaluation criteria and the process used to assess submissions. A common method for bid selection is the lowest compliant bid. However, it is not a best practice, as most of the lowest bidders can sometimes underestimate project requirements in order to submit a lower price. This can increase the risk of cost overruns, schedule delays, or change orders during project delivery. Due to this risk, town administration has adopted best value approach when evaluating bids. This method considers additional factors beyond price, such as experience, qualifications, methodology, project schedule, etc., to ensure the selected contractor is capable of successfully delivering the project. Best value approach is also supported by our purchasing policy. Next type of process we use is request for proposal. This is used when municipality is seeking a solution to a problem or service, and the approach may vary between proponents. In this process, submissions are evaluated based on combination of criteria such as experience, methodology, qualification, price, etc. This allows administration to select the proposal that provides the best overall value rather than the lowest price alone. Town administration utilizes this approach for programs such as annual patching program, sidewalk rehab program, green space maintenance program, etc. The RFP process also allows administration, where appropriate, to engage with proponents following closing of submissions to clarify on their submissions, refine scope, methodology, and pricing prior to finalizing the contract. Next process is request for quotation. This process is generally used for lower value procurements or when purchasing standard goods or services with clear defined specifications. Vendors provide pricing for the requested item or services, and the contract is typically awarded to the lowest compliant quote. We use this approach when utilizing when we're soliciting equipment supply for fire department last year. Next process we utilize is soliciting goods and services through cooperative purchasing program. So town administration utilizes cooperative purchasing programs such as Canoe Procurement Group of Canada, which provides access to competitively tendered contracts through participating public sector buying groups. Through this platform, municipalities are able to purchase goods and services from pre-qualified vendors whose contracts have already been established through a compliant and competitive procurement process. Using cooperative purchasing program allow our town to access nationally negotiated pricing, reduce administrative time associated with running independent procurement process, and achieve cost efficiencies through the collective purchasing power of participating public sector organization. These programs are designed to comply with applicable public sector procurement processes and trade agreements, while still ensuring transparency, fairness, and value for taxpayers. Administration utilizes Canoe procurement where appropriate for operational and capital purchases, such as equipment, vehicles, materials, and specialized services, particularly when it is determined that participating in an existing cooperative contract provides better value or efficiency than conducting a separate tender process. Moving on to our evaluation process. As previously specified, we utilize best value approach when evaluating the tenders or proposal. The evaluating criteria usually changes with the scope and complexity of a project. For example, a straightforward project to complete asphalt patching would be based on price and schedule. Full depth road rehab or water line or sanitary replacement will be based on price, past experience on project, and corporate qualifications or contractor teams member experience, project schedule, etc. The evaluation criteria used in some of our bigger capital projects, I just provided that for council's reference. For example, our 14th Ave road rehab project and 6th Street Southeast Waterman project was evaluated based on 10% on schedule, 30% on past performance on similar projects, 20% on team member experience, and 40% on tender price. The individual evaluation criteria are scored based on 0 to 5. The score is then multiplied by weight and divided by 5 to get the score points for each criteria. The bid or proposal that achieves the highest overall score based on the established evaluation criteria is considered the best value submission. Administration then recommends the highest scoring proposal or bid to council for contract award, wherever council approval is required. Attachment 3 provides an example of the evaluation scoring sheet utilized by administration for sports field maintenance program to assist council in understanding the evaluation process. Our recommendation is to accept this report as information.
Thank you, Kush. Any questions from council? Counselor Hughes.
Thank you so much, Kush. So I just have a question. The one example that you used here, the 14th Ave Southeast versus the 3rd Street, I was just looking at those differences here. So you have schedule weighted at 10% on one, but then there's no schedule on the other one for the road rehab one. but
Right.
You have corporate qualification as a
Yes.
weight. Could you just elaborate on the difference and what the difference is between both projects there?
So 3rd Street was a little bit more kind of like technical project because we had to install water line under the tracks. It has to be
Okay.
crossed, and then not all the contractors are qualified to do that. So that is why we weighted more on contractor, like their corporate qualifications,
Okay,
rather than just focusing on schedule, because it's more technical approach.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but the other one had a water main as well, right?
Yes, but it was just like standard,
Not,
you
the-
know,
not the
trench.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, not the same.
got it. Okay, so depending on the project, essentially, the scale, I guess, that you use does vary
Yes.
slightly.
Yes.
Okay. Is schedule taken into account on most of them, or that's one of the ones that's,
No, most of the
guess the
time
least weighted.
we do value schedule because we want to make sure that project is done
Yeah.
the quickest possible way. And we also want to, like, one of the reason we gauge through schedule is to make sure that the contractor is not is just the understanding of the project. Like, for example, they're installing a water main in a deep residential where you have to take care of, like, you know, traffic, like, you know, there is services, there is like utility crossings. So the
Yeah.
overall process is slow. So if a contractor is coming and say, hey, we can do this within like 3 weeks, which seems like unrealistic, maybe they ignored some of the other aspects of it. So that is why sometimes we also consider schedule as one of the kind of like a gauging factor, if the contractor understands the project properly or not,
yeah.
and they're fully prepared or not, right? So, but just 3rd Street was a little bit complex, so that is why we were like, yeah, schedule is one thing, but we want to make sure that there is no implications to CN railway track. So that is why we weighted more on qualifications rather than just schedule.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Counselor Choba.
I'd like to move that council accepts the report presented on procurement and evaluation process as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried. Thank you, Kush. And we'll move into our supplementary assessment bylaw.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. Have before you tonight a bylaw for the supplemental assessment bylaw for the 2026 year. We do pass this on an annual basis. For 2026 or for 2027, this, depending on how much we actually raise in 2026 from our supplemental bylaw, this may be the last one we run for a few years, as it does cost us additional money with our assessor. And depending on the value that I get this year versus the value that it costs, this may be the last year that we do this for a while. However, this is just a standard practice for the last 20 years of the town. What the supplemental assessment does is this allows us to kind of pre-collect on in construction projects throughout the year. There's kind of an example of exactly the supplemental tax process attached to this report. Other than that, though, this is business as usual. I should just note that motion number 3 does have an incorrect number there. It says number 03. It should say number 05. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
Okay, any questions, comments from council? Counselor Gramlich.
No questions. I'll just make motion to give a supplementary assessment bylaw number 05-2026 first reading.
Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Choba,
I'd like to move to give supplementary assessment bylaw number 05-2026 second reading.
further discussion, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Williams,
I'd like to move to give unanimous consent to supplementary assessment bylaw number 05-2026 for third reading.
okay, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. And Counselor Bows,
I move to give supplementary assessment bylaw 05-2026 third reading.
okay, any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that one is carried. And with that, we're going to take a brief recess. The next report it will be lengthy. Hold tight there for our audit report. So can take a 10-minute break, please. Okay, now we'll move into our financial statement report. Roland.
Perfect. All right. Good evening, your worship and members of council. I'm here tonight with our auditor, and I'm here to present the 2025 audited consolidated financial statements. So just a little bit of background. According to the MGA, all municipalities must prepare annual financial statements for the municipality, and they also must be audited, and the town does get their financial statements audited every single year. And how we do it here at the town is that I and my team prepare all of the information. We prepare our financial statements in-house. We do generate our own statements, make all our own entries, and then the auditors come in and are able to independently verify all of the work that we do, as well as the statements themselves. They can check that. They don't have a process in creating the statements. So with that, for the financial statements in the report here, I just had a couple of key statements to focus on. We had the consolidated statement of changes in financial position in private companies, the balance sheet. We have the consolidated statement of income and the schedule of changes in accumulated surplus. Additionally, I've also included supplementary information, including the breakdown of the statement of cash flows and our debt limits. For the accounting process, the town adheres to the Public Sector Accounting Board Standards, or PSAB, guidelines when it's preparing its financial statements. For the audit part, I'll let Edward go over his process there. But as far as going over the information here, for the statement of changes in financial position, we can start off with our financial assets. These are financial resources and entity controls and can use to pay what it owes to others. These assets include cash, accounts receivable, investments, and assets that are convertible to cash or generate cash so that the entity can pay its liabilities as they come due. So for the year ending December 31st, 2025, the town ended with cash in the bank at 3.5 million. It's a slight decrease from last year of $600,000. Cash consists of cash in the bank and cash on hand. Accounts receivable totaled 3.2 million. That's a decrease from prior year's balance of 5.7 million. Major receivables for the year include $465,000 from the Canada Community Building Fund, $520,000 for the Wildland Urban Interface Grant, as well as annual receivables from Big Fish Bay, ATCO franchise revenue, and government centers. Additionally, the GST receivable, which includes the final quarter return for the year, amounted to $115,000. Taxes and grants in lieu receivable totaled $900,000 with an allowance for doubtful accounts of $540,000, leaving a net balance receivable of $375,000. So this represents a decrease of $146,000 compared to the prior year. Current taxes receivable amounted to $231,000, down from $308,000 in 2024. Long-term investments remained relatively unchanged at 12.4 million, down to 12.3 million. Long-term investments held by the town included 14 financial instruments such as GICs and provincial bonds, with interest rates bearing between 2.7 to 4.8%. Total financial assets decreased by $3.4 million, mainly as a result of lower receivables at year end. Financial liabilities. These are obligations due to outside parties at the date of the financial statements. They result from past transactions and events that will lead to future sacrifice of economic benefits, e.g. financial assets. Common liabilities are accounts payable, debt, employee pension obligations, and unearned revenue. Accounts payable ended the year at $1.6 million, and that's down from $2.4 million in 2024. Significant payables at the end of the year includes payments for $630,000 for RCMP services and $310,000 for payroll. Employee obligations are the outstanding accrued overtime and employee vacation at the end of the year. which increased by $68,000, leaving a balance of $442,000. So this just represents amounts that employees are deferring to future years. Employees have either earned this benefit or are entitled to these benefits within the next year. Deposit liabilities ended the year at $325,000. The two types of liabilities that we have are deposit liabilities held on account for utility accounts, $226,000, and planning and development deposits of $99,000. Deferred revenue ended the year with a balance of $2.2 million. This includes a number of provincial and federal grants, including the local government fiscal framework for $185,000, Fire Smart funding for $517,000, and wildland urban interface grants of $700,000. Other amounts such as deferred revenue in the government center and smaller amounts from a variety of sources make up the remaining balance. Long-term debt ended the year at $16.1 million, which includes amounts for 6 debentures related to capital projects. The largest remaining debenture is $6.8 million, which pertains to the government center and is supported by provincial lease payments. Of the total long-term debt, $3.4 million is supported by taxes, $6 million is utility supported, and the town's debt limit stood at $31 million at the end of the year. In the year as well, 2 debentures were paid in full, a 15-year, $604,000 loan for a water line, as well as another 15-year loan for another water line project for $2 million. Asset retirement obligation amounts here include obligations for the old landfill. The current liability is $124,000, down from $129,000 in 2024. And then we also have a contaminated site liability. And so this represents the salt remediation project that has been underway for a number of years to clean up the salt contamination at the shopyard. The 2025 liability is $50,000, down from $88,000 in 2024. So total financial liabilities stood at $21 million, a decrease of $3.8 million. Net financial assets or net debt, just refer to the difference between our financial assets and liabilities, and is a key indicator of the town's ability to meet its commitments and liabilities, as well as financing future activities. The balance here stood at $1.6 million, and that is a decrease of $400,000 from 2024. So it's moving in the right direction. Non-financial assets are composed of 3 items: tangible capital assets, inventory for consumption, and prepaid assets. Total capital assets had an increase of $300,000 with a resulting balance of $176 million. So this is just the difference between the additions of the assets and the amortization for the year. Inventory consumption, there was a slight increase in inventory of $2,000 for an ending balance of $310,000, up from $308,000 in 2024. There was some prepaid expenses for the year that ended the balance of $118,000, which the bulk of the amount was a down payment on a fire truck apparatus. Total non-financial assets during the year increased by $400,000, ending the year with a balance of $176 million. And for that, once that's the statement of financial position, I can open it up for questions there, or I can just keep on going on.
I think you can keep going for now.
Okay. Moving on to the next statement, we have the consolidated statement of income. So most normally known as the income statement. Just jumping into the revenues, starting with net municipal taxes. Net municipal tax revenue for the year totaled $10 million. This amount represents the net taxes collected by the town for municipal purposes, inclusive of adjustments related to requisitions levied and collected on behalf of external authorities such as the Province for Education Property Tax and the local Seniors Housing Authority. There was a slight variance from the approved budget for municipal tax revenue, and that's primarily attributable to the transfer of outstanding utility balances to the property tax accounts for collection purposes in accordance with municipal policy. On user fees and sales of good, We ended the year at 7.4 million. So this category includes a variety of charges for municipal services, such as utility fees, water, sewer, and solid waste, cemetery fees, recreation facility and program fees, as well as fire service revenues. Utility revenues met their budgeted targets for the year. There was a significant positive variance from budget within this revenue category in 2025. And this is largely due to two notable one-time revenue sources. So we did have the final sales of the residential lots in Fournier Place, which generated an additional $282,000 in revenue. And we also had a big deployment within the fire services, which contributed an unanticipated $750,000 due to provincial deployments. On a year-over-year basis, revenues generated from user fees and sales of goods remain generally consistent with prior years, with the increase in 2025 just due to these one-time events rather than ongoing operational changes. Interest income, the town generated $614,000, and this is split between earnings from investments and cash in the bank. Government transfers for operating were 2.3 million for the year. This revenue category includes a variety of grant funding and intermunicipal contributions received to support municipal programs and services. Specifically, this includes police wage grants, family community support services funding, and grant funding included or for providing services for the new Wildland Urban Interface program, as well as the local government fiscal framework operating funding allocated to support library operations. Intermunicipal contributions from the MDA of Lesser Slave River are also included within this total. The variance from budget within this revenue category is primarily the addition of the WUI funding that was not known or budgeted for during budget time. Development levies, there was some this year. We had $64,000. These amounts relate to offsite levies for water and sewer infrastructure and are associated with the lot sales within Fournier Place subdivision. Development levies are inherently unpredictable when they get triggered. As such, we don't really budget for these as the trigger points are never known throughout the year and can vary significantly from year to year. For comparison, levies collected in 2024 amounted to $203,000. Licenses and permits ended the year with $101,000. This category mainly consists of revenue generated from business license fees as well as development and planning permit fees collected throughout the year. The variance from budget is primarily attributable to lower than anticipated business license renewals and a reduced number of development permit applications during the year. On a year-over-year basis, licenses and permit revenue has declined with a reduction largely attributable to a decrease in business licenses. And just on a note like that, we did see a slight increase during the COVID years for the increase in business licenses. However, we haven't seen that continued increase. And so we're kind of looking at on a budget wise, just to kind of bring that back in line with the growth patterns we're seeing now and not the anticipated growth that we had right after COVID. For fines, we ended the year with $102,000. This category includes fines collected through municipal enforcement activities, including both police issued fines and community enforcement fines. Franchise and concession contracts, $1.8 million. So this revenue is derived all from ATCO Gas and ATCO Electric franchise fees within the municipal boundary. For rental income, we ended the year at $3.4 million. The largest amount in this stems from the agreements with the provincial government, which is rental income for the government center attached to this building. Additional rental income includes fees generated from use of recreational facilities such as the pool and MRC. Both the budget variance and year-over increase in rental income are attributable to higher than forecasted revenues from government center billing. Within other revenues, We ended the year at $890,000. A significant component of this revenue is derived from management fees overseeing the Wildfire Legacy Center, which amounted to $200,000. Additional contributions and donations received during the year totaled $94,000, supporting various community initiatives. And then there was a one-time adjustment for government center rent amounting to $500,000. Total operating revenue stood at $26.7 million, just reflecting a decrease of $1 million compared to the previous year. When we compare revenue to budgets, the overall town experienced higher than anticipated revenue, mainly driven by the one-time gains, such as the deployment revenue and the sales of Fournier Place. On the expense side, we have council and other legislative services ended the year with $306,000. Administration totaled $3 million. This category encompasses a wide range of corporate services support. This includes administration, human resources, health and safety, finance, IT, the CAO, and other general administrative functions. Bylaw enforcement ended the year at $200,000. Policing costs stood at $2.8 million, and this is wholly reflective of the contract with the RCMP. We do have a couple of town staff out there, but the bulk of this is for RCMP services, and this represents an increase of $270,000 over the previous year, strictly due to the rising RCMP services costs the town faces. Now, for fire services, we ended the year at $2.4 million. So there is a higher than budgeted expense here. This was driven by deployment costs, however, which were more than offset by the revenue generated. And then the other amount was for the WUI program that was not budgeted for, but these expenses were wholly offset by the provincial funding included in grant revenue. And so while there is a higher than budgeted expenses, all of the expenses that we did incur were covered by other revenue sources. So for transportation, we ended the year at $2.7 million, and this covers costs related to roads, streets, sidewalks, and airport payments. The significant changes in expenses compared to the previous year mainly were attributed to the late services for snow clearing and induced overtime, and additional materials and supplies that kind of happened right there at the end of the year when Snowmageddon started. Water supply and distribution ended the year at $1.7 million. And this just that's all the costs for our water supply system. Wastewater treatment and disposal ended the year for $960,000. And that was mainly in line with expectations for all our wastewater treatment and disposal system. For waste management, this includes the costs for garbage pickup and disposal and recycling. And this ended the year at $750,000. For family and community supports, we ended the year at $350,000. Which had two amounts in it, mainly for family and community support services. And there's also some additional remaining cleanup items for the relocation of the homeless shelter assets. Under cemetery, we had $31,000 in expenses for the year. So additional costs here, as we can see from the previous year, wasn't really an increase in overall cemetery expenses. It was just a reallocation of how we are cost tracking our cemetery services. So there was a decrease in our Parks Recreation Center under grass cutting, and the expenses are now properly reflected in the cemetery. Subdivision planning, land and development ended the year at $600,000. This covers planning and development activities, land development, and economic development programs. The budget overage and year-over-year increase in expenses are really just one-off one-off expenses, which are primarily attributed to the Fournier land sales and related expenses. Commercial properties ended the year at $1.3 million, and this includes all of our expenses for the government center. Parks, Recreation and Culture ended the year at $3.4 million. This encompasses all of our community services such as the MRC, parks, sports fields, and the pool. The increase in expenses year over year is primarily due to the expansion of service hours and related payroll and some of the material and utility costs for those expanded services. For libraries and halls, we have basically two centers here, ended the year at $740,000, and these include expenses for the library as well as contributions to the Wildfire Legacy Center. The year-over-year rises here are just a result of the increasing contributions for the Legacy Center and additional operating costs at the library. Amortization ended the year at $6.7 million, which is just the amortization expense for all of the town's depreciating capital costs. Total expenses for the year, including amortization, amounted to $28 million, or an increase of $1.5 million over 2024. So for total revenues and expenses before other items in the year amounted to an excess of revenue over expenses of negative $1.3 million. For the other items on the statement here, we have the government transfer for capital, which was $2 million, included federal and provincial grants. Grants recognized included the Local Government Fiscal Framework, or LGFF, the Canada Community Building Fund, the Wildland Urban Interface Grants, and amounts from the MD of Lesser Slave River. Gains on disposals were from some old equipment that were disposed of and sold for $6,000. And donations for capital ended the year at $54,000, includes amount received from two entities for capital projects for Parks and Recreation and Fire Services capital. And the total excess of revenue over expenses amounted to $831,000. For the statement of cash flow, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It was more for information for council there. It just shows our operating activities. Cash generated from that was $8.8 million. Investing activities, $145,000, and then kind of shows where the money went. So financing activities, which is debt payment, $2.6 million. And then the biggest activity there was capital activities at $7 million. And to tie this all together, we can move on to the next schedule, which is schedule of changes in accumulated surplus. The town had a beginning balance in its unrestricted surplus of $1.1 million, a restricted surplus of $15.8 million, and an equity and tangible capital asset balance of $157 million, for a total beginning accumulated surplus total of $174 million. For the year, the excess of revenue over expenses amounted to $830,000, which includes both amortization and current year funds allocated for capital. Transfers to reserves amounted to $3.2 million, while $365,000 was taken from reserves for operations. After backing out current year funds for amortization, the principal portion of long-term debt amounted to $2.6 million, was subtracted. The result was no change to the unrestricted surplus. So does that mean the town levied taxes and spent all of the money, and we did not incur a deficit, nor did we incur a surplus? So we basically balanced the books, spent exactly what we charged, and ended the year with no change in our unrestricted surplus. For the restricted surplus, which basically amounts to reserve transfers, we transferred in $3.2 million to the reserves and took out $360 for operations. The overall result was a decrease in the reserves by $2 million, bringing our ending balance to $3.8 million. The overall change in unrestricted surplus, restricted surplus, and equity and tangible capital assets amounted to an overall change in the accumulated surplus of $831,000 for an ending balance of $175 million. So again, just to reiterate there, the total operating surplus for 2025 amounted to zero. For our capital additions, major capital additions within the year included the completion of 14th Ave and 5th Street Southeast Road project for $2.9 million. 6th Street Southeast Waterline project for $1.4 million. $370,000 for sea lift force main. And $880,000 for the water treatment plant. $678,000 was invested in replacing vehicles and equipment for the year. And the town continued to invest in its downtown, including $330,000 for the downtown revitalization project. Facility upgrades included the construction of an office at the water treatment plant for $880,000. And then parks and MRC contributions totaled $183,000 for outside spaces and $290,000 invested into the MRC. Capital disposals, there was just a couple of older trucks on the books that were sold at just for that $6,000. And for our debt limits for the year, in 2025, the total debt limit for the town was 40 million, roughly a little unchanged from 2024 at $41 million. Total debt stood at 9 million. Total debt limit available to the town was 30,700,000. Our debt servicing limit stood at 6.6 million, and the total debt servicing limit available at 5.7 million. And with that, the highlights are there. And if there's any questions, if not, I can switch it over to Edward.
I don't think there's any questions now. I have a bit of a financial rant, but I'll let Edward get through his financial statements and then we'll go from there.
So, hi everyone, I'm Edward. I'm a partner at Doyle and Company, independent auditors for the town of Slave Lake. Before I start my report, I just wanted to say it's April 7th and you guys are going to get a clean and qualified audit opinion. So I think for as long as I've been here, I think that's got to be the earliest, if not one of the earliest times I've presented these financial statements to you guys. Roland's report is super detailed. We were just talking about it a little bit before I'm up here. It's literally one of the most detailed reports I think I've seen in any municipality. So, hats off to you guys, council, your CFO, Roland, your CAO, Alex, and your finance and admin team. We're going to have, we have like the rest of the month to, see if there's anything else we need to add to this, but these are final. Like I said, we're going to issue a clean and qualified audit opinion. Your controls were great. Things are good, right? So you don't hear that too often from your auditor. You're usually pretty just, yeah, things are okay. Let's move on to next year, right? So everything is good here. So a little bit about what, Roland's done a really good job of explaining all the numbers to you guys in a lot of detail. So what we do is we come out here a few times a year. We do an interim audit and then we do a final audit. So essentially what we do is we look for, and what my team and I do is we look at independence, right? So we're your independent auditors. We come in here before we even take you guys on for another year. We see if that changes, not just for myself, but for the team as well. Sort of any relationships we need to report, nothing there. We move forward. We gather a bunch of audit evidence and then we reassess at that point in time. And then right before we issue what you see in the independent auditor's report, we go through that again. So it's really, really important for us to have that level of independence and to be able to provide you a report that, is unbiased, is objective, and just says what the numbers say. Okay. So what we end up doing also is we go through, you know, these financial statements are in-house, right? So that's also a rare feat that you guys do as well. Not a lot of towns, not a lot of municipalities produce their own in-house financial statements that you guys can say, well, Roland, you know, it's November 30th, let's get a financial statement in here. He might spend a couple of evenings here, but you know, he's able to produce that. You know, we're able to come in here, we're able to look at his work and just do true audit work, right? We can look at your revenues, we can look at your expenditures, we go through all your line items. You know, of course, we use a sample, but we look at things like controls, right? We can test your guys' controls to see if things are there, to see if you guys have a good segregation of duties. And like I said, everything is prepared really, really well here. The control remains strong. They were strong last year. They're remaining strong this year. And the numbers, you know, the numbers are good, right? So I know Roland kind of blasted through a lot of that stuff. It's really, really detailed stuff. The financial statements are going to be published. Once we send these to Municipal Affairs, they're online. Everything we talked about here today is going to be available. Yeah, so, you know, for our part, usually I talk for a lot longer, but you guys have a lot of information here. I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. So I did mention we are issuing you guys a clean and qualified audit opinion. You guys are going to go through this, and you know, a lot of communities, a lot of places always ask me, well, where does it say that? It doesn't say clean and qualified anywhere. It just says opinion. So, you know, based off our standards, that's all it says, right? It says opinion. If it says something other than opinion, if it says qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion, that's when you know there's something wrong, right? It's saying we're going to give you opinion, but there's other caveats to it. When it just says opinion like that, it means it's a clean and qualified one. Okay. And like I said, it's April 7th. The deadline for submitting all this stuff is May 1st, right? So we're almost a month before, which is really, really, really awesome. In case anything happens, we got a lot of time to prepare for it. Other thing is, so I'm not going to go through any of the financial statements. Roland's done a really good job at that. The one schedule I do always talk to you guys about is the schedule of changes in accumulated surplus. You know, you'll see that there. Roland briefly mentioned it. Your unrestricted surplus there remains unchanged for the year. So we usually look at this, and I usually present it as if this is, if there's one schedule in the financial statements that you take home with you and that you look at, is that schedule 1, because it's your pretty much your report card, your overview of your year. Sure, this year there's no change in your accumulated surplus, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? There's no loss. Your restricted surplus there started the year at $15.8 million. You spent about, I think it looks like $7 million in intangible capital assets. So your reserves there are sitting around $13.8 million at the end of the year. You got the cash in your bank and your investment accounts to support that. Your equity and tangible capital assets end off at about $160 million. So generally, and then the debt limits as well. That's another thing that everybody always asks me about, is what's our debt limit at the end of the year? 30.7 million. So that's 30,751,916 to be exact. So that's what's available for you guys. And then, yeah, the rest of it is you guys make my job too easy here. Right. So thank you guys for having us. And if you guys have any questions about the audit stuff, I'm open to it.
Okay, I'll launch in and then I'll open up the floor to questions. So we have two parts here. We obviously have the numbers that we have our CFO Roland here, and thank you, Edward, for coming up. I wanted to we have some new council here this year, and a hazard of the profession. So obviously everything, we are audited every year. And so Edward from Doyle & Company, the auditors, they assess independence, just like you mentioned. So we take a look at self-interest. So do they have any financial interest in the client or dependence on our fees? Self-review, so they don't audit their own work. Advocacy threat, so have they represented the town in disputes or financing? Familiarity threat, any close relationships with, client family members that are working within the organization, and intimidation, because we are so intimidating. Pressure from the client, threats to replace auditor, that type of thing, threats for an opinion. So as you mentioned, multiple points throughout the audit, this is assessed to ensure that we are getting a true independent report there. And the clean audit opinion, that is what we're looking for. And it is more challenging in nonprofits and municipalities because of the volume of transactions, especially cash transactions, really hard to track. Basically, for me, in the simplest non-accounting terms, is that the numbers are accurate and reliable. They're prepared properly in accordance with standards that are set out by the CRA and the accounting bodies. There were no significant errors or misleading information, and that our financial reporting is not only transparent, but independent professionals have verified this. So council and administration are following proper financial reporting rules. It doesn't mean that every decision we made was perfect, but it means that you can put trust in the numbers that are presented before us. So from a overall perspective, having that clean audit opinion is huge for me, and appreciate, the presentation and the attention to detail with the notes. I'm picky on notes, hazard of the profession once again, and I trace numbers. So I found that on a few boards and commissions throughout the years that there's discrepancies. So I appreciate the attention to detail. I'm just going to go over a few things that I noticed, and more of its commentary. I did want to mention that for development permit fees, that they were due to business licenses being lower, but also we made a decision to waive development permit fees for a year, as well as, the deposits. So I think that has a significant impact in there. So taking a look at everything here, our total operating surplus for 2025, so back to the numbers, was 0. And that was our goal. We set ourselves and administration last year for previous council to put forth a budget that reflected what it actually cost to run the town. Not this was what was always in the budget categories, but our goal was to get 0. Now, moving forward, we want to continue to adapt to the one-time events, both positive and negative. Judging by the fact that it's snowing again, we have some adjustments with regards to snow removal this year that we may not have in future years. Our goal as council is to put the town in a position to be able to adapt to these events and move forward without huge discrepancies. And actively engaging our administration to provide a budget that is not necessarily what we have always done, but reflects where we are now. Things change drastically over 10 years, 20 years, and how we operate, the amount of staff it takes, what type of even budget line items. I think council, both more so last budget session, was about ready to had enough questions for me, because we went through each line item. We went through, why is there $1,000 in advertising when this department doesn't use it? And there's nothing coded to it. And thankfully, Roland was very patient with my numerous questions on that. But that's what we achieved. And so for me, personally, seeing the 0 for the surplus is a huge win this year, because that's where we're able to adapt. Mill rate is obviously has to be set by May 1st. So in the next few weeks, we're going to see our 2026 budget coming forward at a council meeting, since we have done our strategic planning. So seeing the 0 makes me accounting happy, because I know that's what we intended to do, and we can see the results presented here. It is going to be a challenging budget year, and I think the mayor of every town says that every year. I wanted to highlight something briefly in policing, and I did go back and look at all our financial statements, which are on our website. So our policing costs for 2025 were $2.8 million, which was, as we said, a $270,000 increase, which is roughly a 3% tax increase over the last year. No say in it. This is what we have. Now, 2015, 10 years ago, our policing budget was $1.89 million. 10 years. So in 10 years, I have a $1 million budget line increase. Wasn't here for all the 10 years on council, but here for enough of it. If we take a look at 2020, it was $2 million. So in the last 5 years, it has increased $800,000. And what that's doing is obviously placing significant financial pressure on us. So I just choose to highlight that $800,000 swing, because we were able to get a net 0 surplus and not have losses and not raise taxes a bunch. And we were able to figure out where we are. Where we go from here and what the tax rate will look like moving forward, that's going to come up at a further budget meeting, but I'm very proud of administration for accepting the challenge to get that, as Roland has a big sigh here, to hit the challenge, because it's different from how we've always done it. We usually look at reasonability, and now we want to know as council, last term, we want to show what it actually cost to run the town. So, and then I have one quick question, which I may have forgot. Actually, no, I think that's it for me. That is my financial rant. Greatly appreciate your work for the audit, Roland, as well, you and your team. I love that we can rely on the numbers, and I once again appreciate the taking the challenge that we set forth and adapting and running with it despite how painful the process may or may not have been. And I'll go to Councillor Hughes now.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much for the report. It was very detailed as always, Roland, and I super appreciate all of your work on that. You said it best. We balanced the books and we paid out exactly what we charge people. And that to me is a huge win. I am extremely happy to hear that, mainly because I don't think our council wanted to continue to sit here and reach into people's pockets and have a surplus, right? I really am extremely happy to see the way that things are running now, and that has been the long-term goal. So yeah, I just wanted to relay that message and say thank you very much. And as much as Mayor Ward jokes that she's a hazard in this job with her profession, we would not be in this position without her guidance. And because of her profession, she has been able to lead the town to this situation that we wanted to be in. So I would actually like to acknowledge that and say thank you for your leadership and many hours of budgets and Excel spreadsheets and years and years of work all around, and to the finance department as well, obviously, and yourself, Roland. We just super appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. It did take a team and a lot of Excel sheets, which I enjoyed, but nonetheless appreciate that. And I think we're all on the same page with that win there. Any other questions from council on anything before you audited otherwise? We are presented these quarterly, so the reason why questions are light is that numbers in here truthfully aren't a surprise. Happy to actually hit the zero. The zero was the hidden surprise in all of this, and not being 100,000, over to actually hit zero was fantastic. But like I said, we're well versed in this. Councillor Hughes.
I will make a motion that council adopt the financial statements return for the year ending December 31, 2025.
Okay, is the motion on the floor? Is there any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is passed. Perfect. Okay. Question period. Oh, signatures, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Hughes.
So it would seem that winter is still knocking at our doors. Unfortunately, I don't know about you guys. I don't want to answer anymore. I am super over it. I did just want to comment that I know the town crews were out steaming, trying to keep water moving in areas that it's freezing. I do know potholes are obviously the latest concern, and they have been out filling those. However, the weather situation currently does not help us to be able to really fill those properly at this point in time. I just thought you might want to speak to that, possibly, Alex, and maybe refresh my memory on the weather and how that impacts those.
Yeah, you bet. So we have kind of two plans for potholes and cracks and things like that. So the asphalt plants don't fire up until mid-May. So right now we're using cold mix. There's another newer product. It's like a little bean bag that it's quicker, basically. So they come along, they kind of blow out the hole, clean it out, try to dry it out, put the mix in, try to tamp it down. Water freezes, pushes everything out. And they come along like today and grade and take some of that away. So they've done potholes, probably there's 2 or 3 that they've identified. They've done a couple times just because of how bad they are. There was one near Caribou Trail that took almost 600 of those bean bags, which is pretty significant. So it's an ongoing battle, and again, fighting the water as well, as you mentioned. We did have crews all weekend. They had a plan starting yesterday with a contract crew as well to pothole. And then, as you mentioned, we all woke up this morning to more moisture on the ground. So it sets us back days. So they're continuing. We also have our infrared heater that we can use, which was brought out and ready to go. And then the snow. So there's a couple different methods. It's just time and trying to get things, water moved away so we can dry up. Similar to the industrial park, the roads in the industrial park are in very rough shape, but they're
Yeah.
so wet that when they run graders down them, it doesn't help. So they're trying to get the water moving there as well. So
Okay.
there's lots of ongoing things. Again, thank you to the crews. They did work all weekend to try to get water moving. And we're back to halfway to where we were a month ago.
Yes, yeah, every time it snows and gets like this, it's kind of like a couple steps back, eh? And I'm sorry, did you say 600?
600 of the bags. I don't know
Oh.
what the total
Oh.
weight of that is, but there's one fairly significant pothole that they've been using different methods to try to keep it somewhat contained,
Mhm.
just due to the size until they can get a permanent fix on it.
So essentially, until the asphalt plants are up and running and the weather is warmer, that is sort of the only method, if you will, of being able to fill these at the
Well, we
current
do have
time,
our infrared heater that does small patch repairs as well.
right?
It takes a couple guys, they go out and they'll heat, basically reclaim the pavement that's there. They fill it in and then reclaim it.
Okay,
So the goal ultimately will be, once it warms up, to quote Mayor Ward from a conversation earlier, we're gonna try to fill every pothole in town. It's just gonna take time to get there.
for sure. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the update, as I'm sure the public does as well. So thank you.
Anything further from council for administration? Okay, moving forward into state of the lake. Counselor Gramlich.
One, I would just like to congratulate the U18 girls hockey team. They won the B provincials last year. And the way their season played out this year, they went to A provincials. They went a tier up and then they actually won A provincials this year. So that's pretty neat. So congratulations to Captain Taylor Warman and her teammates, and good job.
Anything further for state of the lake? Okay. Counselor Choba,
Motion to adjourn.
any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that one is carried.